Some call it the mother of all password attacks. What I'm about to talk to you works in real world as well as the world of computers, making it not only one of the strongest forms of cyber attack, but a mindset. Yes, I'm talking about brute force attacks. Hello Internet, I'm Arya Bagheri, and today I'll go over how brute force attacks work, what makes them great, and why regardless of their greatness, for me the brute force attack is a move of last resort. And finally, we will get into how you can protect yourself against it as a company and as a responsible internet user. When trying to perform a brute force attack, you try all the possible combinations. It is actually a quite easy concept to grasp, but it is fascinating how well it works. Brute force attacks are mind-blowing since they can be applied to many different things in the physical world as well as the world of computers. Basically, anytime there is a lock, no matter digital or physical, where it requires the owner to input something in order to open, you can technically crack it using brute force. In a more abstract point of view, whenever you have a set of options and there is an option that would render the outcome you desire, a person with the brute force mindset would try all the possible combinations until one of them works. For example, when cracking a 4-digit lock, you start from 4 zeros and go to 4 nines. At one point, you are going to find a password. That is 100% guaranteed unless the lock is broken. In hotel keys, safes, and so on, there is a finite number of possible combinations, and once you check all of them, you'll be guaranteed to be granted access. Brute force for me is a move of last resort, however. That is because as the option pool gets larger, the time it takes to test all options increases exponentially. For example, even if the password only contains numbers, it gets 10 times more difficult to guess the right combination for every additional character. And if the password contains all the usual character sets, a 16-digit password takes 100 times as much as a 15-digit password. That's the definition of too much. Brute force has some variations like credential stuffing, profiling attacks, and dictionary attacks that make it a real threat, even if your password meets the basic eligibility requirements. These variations make some passwords that would have taken years to crack with the old school brute force easy to crack with a small computer in a matter of seconds. Before we get into how you can protect yourself against these attacks, I have to mention that I have videos on all these variations linked down in the description. Now we get into how you can protect yourself against it as an organization and as a responsible internet user. As a user, you should try to include numbers, lowercase, uppercase, and special characters in your password, even if the website doesn't force you. And for the love of God, make sure your passwords are longer than 16 digits. This protects you from the good old brute force attack. You should also avoid any info that could lead back to you. No birthdays, names, etc. No keyboard walks. And any tricks that you think will make your password stronger, like swapping S for dollar signs and O's for zeros, is useless. As a general rule of thumb, if you think many other people might have the same password, it is not a good password. Changing your password regularly could also help protect you from people that happen to look at your password while typing it, and websites that get breached and leak a whole bunch of passwords, including yours. As an organization, limited password attempts are a must. If there are only 3, 5, or 10 password attempts, the attacker can't just put all the possible combinations. The website should not, however, lock the users out completely, since that would lead to poor user experience. The website should introduce small lockout periods where you can't input a password for, let's say, 5 minutes. This number could increase as the failed attempts increase. You should also lock out and log IP addresses that are trying way too many passwords. This comes at the benefit of preventing DDoS attacks, but also makes your website safer against brute force attacks. One might think that IP bans could replace the first recommendation, which was an account lockout, but since attackers vary their IP addresses constantly, the account lockout is a must. Make your users change their passwords regularly. You can introduce a password retirement plan to your database. After the retirement, the user should be forced to change their passwords when logging in. Now you should vary this retirement time based on how secure you need your app to be. You should also increase the password strength requirements. If you are already established website, you can follow the previous recommendation and add a retire time for passwords. So when the passwords get retired, they can be made with the new password strength requirements in mind. And the last recommendation is to improve on your encryption strategy in the backend. We all know plain text password storage is a bad idea, but choosing the right encryption would help against brute forcing the hashing algorithm of your choice, in case, God forbid, your database gets stolen in the future. So this is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. For more videos like this, subscribe. I put many resources like this on my YouTube channel and on my personal website, so definitely take advantage of those resources. So until next time, stay paranoid, stay alive.